Please, James. James Nicholls from Rees Machinery Group.
Afternoon, everybody. So my name is James Nicholls, and I'm the operations manager for RM Group. We are a manufacturing company at heart, specialising in robotics and automation from mid-Wales. So we're right in the middle of Wales, where rolling green hills and more sheep than people. Established in '95, so we're a senior partner with ABB Robotics. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of them. So we're an added value partner. So the business itself has quite a large series of operations internally. We design, manufacture, assemble, test, install our own systems, and we also have a service team covering the whole of the UK. Phil and Fode wanted me to talk a little bit about the selection process. Now, I'm not sure how many of you guys are thinking about priority, where you are in your progress, or if you're all current users. But the key criteria for us really was that the system had a foundation in manufacturing. Predominantly, we cut metal, bend metal, weld and fabricate. Yes, we do an awful lot of stuff with robot programming, PLC programming, but fundamentally the large proportion of our operations are founded in manufacturing. So it was really important to us that our provider and that the system had a strong foundation in that, and that that Meditech had a history of providing other businesses like us with a system that would suit. Obviously, cost and budget is always a big criteria, and obviously the after-sales technical support. The other big thing is flexibility. Our business has existing processes which we were pretty sure were nailed on and in the right place, but we had huge areas of the business where we had no processes, no procedures. So we took the opportunity to use the introduction of ERP to do a ground-up approach of how we operate in each department, look at our processes from the ground up. And Priority gave us a good chance to consider if we were doing everything right, and look at the standard operating procedures in Priority and see if we needed to change to adapt them. But where we knew we had the right process and it was unique to our business, it was of paramount importance that Priority could be bent to suit our usability. And I have to say, I think the flexibility for you guys that use Priority is one of the massive selling points and one of the major benefits we've seen. So we had multiple demonstrations. We whittled it down to Priority and Epicor. And obviously, I'm stood here, we chose Priority. One interesting point for anybody who's looking to utilize Priority and hasn't purchased yet is we actually got 50% of our software costs funded through a smart innovation scheme through the Welsh Government. I appreciate we're a Welsh company, but there is innovation vouchers across the UK. And one really interesting point was that actually covered the license costs, which is quite unique. But not only that, we were able to project our total labour cost for the implementation for all the staff for the entire implementation process, and they funded 50% of our labour bill as well. So it meant that the second point on that selection process was a very easy one to tick. So, as I mentioned before, we have various departments across the company, and we utilise Priority in every department. Some much more than others, to be honest, but we do find the departments that use Priority the most have seen the biggest step change in their performance. So it's an ongoing process for us. We're 3 years in now to using Priority. So we are very much looking at the departments where utilization is low and focusing on improving utilization there. Our business works on a project basis, so we don't take an order and ship boxes or anything like that, ship products. We ship systems. So we undertake 50 to 70 automation projects per year. Those projects can vary in value from anywhere from 40, 50,000 pound for a system up to 2-3 million pound. So the complexity of the systems varies massively. But one big issue that the company faced historically was our ability to plan. You can see on the screen a screenshot from our system with some of our customers, and you can see our work breakdown structure underneath. Priority really has given us the visibility of our business in terms of what we've got to do to fulfill customers' expectations, what we've got to do to hit our own targets, and what we've got to do to stay on cost. And you can see there the ability to import that data directly from Microsoft Project, from the project management team, lay out the projects in multi-activity breakdowns, and then use the really clever inbuilt functions like autofill rules and the business rules to automatically assign and communicate that data across the company was something that just wasn't happening before. So we've seen a big improvement on that. Some key highlights to our system include time and attendance. So we don't use the inbuilt time and attendance system in Priority. We use an external program called Tensor. Direct labour is the biggest variable in our daily operation, and that's where we can make or break a project. So we use Priority to monitor and track our engineers on site. So they utilise mobile devices and report their time and attendance. And we've got a development from the Meditech guys, which automatically populates those into the system against the projects. We also utilise work orders and work hours. Each user has some data in their personnel file. So our overhead rates and our staff rates are all built into the system. So in a live environment, we can see exactly where we are in the project in terms of number of hours consumed, cost of those hours. And then we use the automation rules then to try and flag up to the project managers if they miss anything, that we are, we've got risk that we need to mitigate at that point. A big challenge for us as a business historically was capturing, maintaining, and updating our bill of materials. So as a system provider, we may sell a system that has 30 machines in it that work in a modular format to form a full automation system. Each machine may have 300-400 components. So housing that level of detail in a multi-level bill of materials was a real challenge. So we had a custom development made that links with SolidWorks, and it pulls out a generic export in an XML file format and populates a full indented bill of materials off the data cards in SolidWorks within the system. We also utilize part processing information. If you see on the tabs, you've got process 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our production team can apply filters, and we can utilize that data in other systems for things like laser cutting, press braking, CNC machining, so that we can add work orders automatically without any manual input. We also found that Priority Mobile, and that's the standard Priority Mobile app, was a big feature we liked when we were looking at Priority. And it is used throughout our business and allows all shop floor staff to access any data they need and for direct reporting to the system. So we've had some custom apps generated by the guys at Meditech. We use handheld devices, and they're not cost prohibitive handheld devices. I'm talking £50, £60 entry-level Android phones. We've managed to put them across the shop floor, and we get all the functionality out of that we need and more. So in the stores team, all parts now that were historically booked out manually are done via QR code scanning. Service, all our engineers on site report their labour and parts against a service call via a handheld device. And all the production team report labour time against work orders. We also use the engineering change order screen via the statuses to report non-conformance requests and product improvements, and all that's done by the guys on the floor via handheld devices. We utilise work orders heavily. As I said, we're a manufacturing company at heart. They're using the production department in conjunction with the issue to kits form for issuing work-to-work cells. This has been a massive step forward for us. Pre-priority, at best, we could evaluate the success of a project as a whole via a cumulative total of parts, labour and material. We didn't have the visibility of where that labour lay, where the material lay, or against which machine. So we struggled to actually identify our true manufacturing costs for individual items. That's a thing of the past now. The work orders has allowed us to issue work in a really streamlined fashion, get the guys in the production team to report everything that we could need and more. And that enables us to just monitor constantly whether we're on cost and whether we're on time. Here's a couple of screenshots. On the right is our generic work order form. So you can see how that is utilized via barcode scanning with a little screenshot at the side of the mobile app. That's how our teams report data, scanning directly against the work order. And then production data is used within our capacity planning and Six Sigma processes. And I think a massive win for us is it's enabled us to be more analytical in the way that we plan, and we're a more data-driven business now than ever before. We used to be finger in the air, opinion-based. Now we actually are able to look at, drill down to how long it took to do this, how long it took to make this machine, go deeper into the work cells, so making that machine, how long did that machine take in each work cell? So when we do see a problem, we can focus our attention as a management team on the specific area that needs looking at. Previously, that was almost impossible to see. Business benefits as a whole from putting priority in to our business. Increased visibility on project progression. So, as I mentioned before, with the project planning, we have a much better handle on where we're at with our projects, which element, whether they've cleared manufacture, whether we are in workshop testing, what proportion of the way through that specific element we are, which obviously means that we're able to communicate more efficiently with our customers. If we do have a problem, we can communicate earlier. It's much better to have a conversation with a customer to tell them something's going to be late early rather than telling them the day before delivery. Those kind of things used to happen in our business. Now we are able to have those difficult conversations much earlier, which means that the conversation often isn't difficult anymore. Increased efficiency in production. So the ability to just see the capacity of a work cell and the performance of a work cell has meant that we've been able to identify things like over-processing, supply chain issues that were previously hidden, kitting issues. All of those things are now visible. And we've managed to increase our turnover from 7.4 to 9.4 million in the last 18 months. And we, albeit having a headcount increase, ironically, that headcount increase was in the sales team, so that the front end of the business can now keep up with the back end. So no direct labour headcount increase for that level of turnover increase. Streamlining of departments due to workflow improvements. So previously, we would have a huge amount of verbal conversations, a lot of paper pushing between departments, a lot of corridor conversations, what we'd call them, which meant that as a projects team, only a small proportion of the team were aware of key information really that would relate to the project success. Priority basically just means we've got somewhere to put all of that information. It's visible to everybody that needs to see it, and the automation rules to pump that information out via email to relevant staff. If there's any changes in dates or anything like that, the pressure is gone to communicate because Priority does it for us. Better decision making within the SLT and the operations team due to data available. So as I mentioned before, we're now making decisions based on data and analytics. We are looking at cycle times, work cell production times. It enables us to make really informed decisions on resource within the business. Historically, those kind of conversations would be an opinion-based conversation where we would argue whether we need another head in said department here or there. Now it's really straightforward because we've got the data just to make it black and white, which means that there is a really straightforward decision-making process with the board. Increased visibility of live costs throughout the project lifecycle. So as I mentioned before, capturing costs and monitoring costs was historically a real issue, but now we can see all costs at all times, labour and material, right down to work cell level, and that is really enabling us to focus on the areas of the business that need support and improve communication. So Priority, one place for all the information and all people looking in one place. I'd be really interested if anybody else is in a similar business or is operating the system in a manufacturing environment to hear how you guys do it and have a chat with you later. So if anybody wants to run through anything, or if anybody's doing something different, I'd be really, really interested to see how Priority is working for you guys. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.